Hello, I'm James Letters.
And I'm Dad.
Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
Hey, tomorrow our first whole episode is going out to you. Don't forget to share it on social media and please rate and review us on iTunes and everywhere else. We'll only be able to keep going with this series if everyone gets to hear about our podcast. Thanks.
We got interviewed by RTHK Radio from Hong Kong.
That's right, Noreen Mir interviewed us for RTHK Radio 3. Here it is, guys.
Let's turn to our next topic of today, history, and our guests are quite the dynamic duo, so much so they're launching their very own podcast series to answer some big questions in history. The podcast series is called Dad and Me Love History, and I'd like to welcome to the program Paul Letters and his son James Letters. Welcome to the program. Thank you so much for being with us this afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks.
So, for those of you listening to the program, Paul is no stranger to Radio 3. We've had him on as our resident historian on the 123 show, answering some of the big questions in modern history. And also, you may have heard him recently, also co-hosting Backchat as well. But this time he's here, not to talk about his books either. He's here to talk about his podcast series that he's launching with his son. Now, this is so exciting to be doing so. How did you come up with this idea?
How did it come about? 'Cause I remember you said to me, shall we do a podcast? But what made you say that?
Because you said in Italy, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and you said 3 of them, and I said the last one, Donatello.
We were talking about famous artists from history, weren't we? And you remembered the names of 4, of course, 4 very famous Renaissance artists. Yeah, so we were talking about that when we went on holiday to Italy. And then, of course, I was doing the show, like Noreen mentioned, This Month in History here at RTHK. And James just loves history. He's always asking me questions about it. So one of us kind of said, well, why don't we record these conversations? But I don't remember if it was me or you that actually said, let's get a microphone out and start recording.
How do you come up with what topics to explore in history? How does it come about, these conversations with you and James, Paul?
It's usually James asking questions. In fact, when we first decided to do this series, I asked him what questions would he like to answer, and I just wrote a load down, and he came up with a lot very, very quickly. Why was the Roman army so awesome? Was the first emperor of China who built the Great Wall and the Terracotta Warriors, was he an awesome leader or a crazy dude? James also wanted to know who invented ice cream. So we've investigated all that. In fact, we need to investigate the Ninja Turtle guys, the Renaissance history, because that's how we started talking about it. But we've not actually done an episode on that yet. But we've already recorded these first few topics. But we'll get there.
James, why do you like history so much? Are you sort of influenced by your dad?
Yeah.
In what way?
Because he tells me lots of stuff, and I like the stuff that he says to me, so I wanted to do something.
You know, sometimes some children might find history boring. What do you say to them?
Nothing.
Do you want to change their minds? Do you think history is boring?
No. Because you can know about the Romans, the Terracotta Army, the Vikings, and stuff like that.
How do you normally learn about history? Do you ask your dad, or how do you do your research?
I normally ask my dad.
Yeah, and we do research together on the internet, and we talk on the show, on the episodes we've already recorded. We talk about websites that you can trust and ones you can't trust. And I ask James how he knows what to trust and so on. We talk about evidence as well in history. So yeah, it's not just stories and jokes and funny jingles, but it is all of those things as well.
Yeah. So how do you do your research then together? What sources do you use?
Well, we tend to, more often than not, we're using the internet more than books, but we have used books for some topics. I think when we did the Romans, we got out some of your Roman books, and then we'll look at In fact, do you remember, James, I asked you before, how can you tell if something on the internet, whether you can trust it and believe it or not?
You look at other websites on the internet, and if they all say the same thing, you can trust it.
Yeah, there's certainly a higher chance, right, if it's not just one website. But of course, we have to be careful. Sometimes it's possible for one website to put some information up there and then everybody else copy them. But it's a big world out there. Most people have got a mind of their own, and they won't copy stuff. They'll look for themselves. So
Absolutely. So how do you come up with what types of topic that you both enjoy? Who gets the sort of lead to suggestion then? Who gets to suggest which topics to explore? James, is it you or your dad?
Both.
Both.
yeah, I'd say it's both. I ask you questions, but sometimes you're not sure. So sometimes I give you some topics, usually ones you've said before. So we've been planning this for a year. So I've been making notes for a year every time he says something or asks something interesting, and think, we could come back to that and find out about that. So yeah, it could be one or the other. And one we've already put up on our Facebook page. In fact, we're not releasing this as a podcast. But we've looked at what Star Wars got to do with history, and that was one that he got very excited about. And we released that just before Christmas when the movie came out, and it's still there. So if anyone's interested, go to Dad and Me Love History, Facebook /Dad and Me Love History, or for other social media, you can have a look at our webpage, dadandmelovehistory.com, and we're on Instagram, on Twitter, and Facebook, and so on.
Yeah, so you're launching it this Saturday on the 24th of February. So I got a chance to listen to some of the teasers and the trailers as well. I have to say, I love how the energy between you two, it's so much fun, and I can really hear the genuine sort of joy and love that you both have with history. And it's, it's inspiring for other families trying to get their children to sort of get involved with history. I mentioned earlier that sometimes history can be a bit dry, can be a bit not boring, because once you get into the details and once you get interested in it, it's fascinating. But it's that initial sort of delve into the topic as well. So how do you balance the dry facts, and also how do you make it in a sort of lively manner? How do you make it fun for new audience to enjoy history as much as you both do?
Well, because this show's aimed at under 12, so I think pace is really important. And so we break it up a lot. I try to make sure there's not too long of just listening to one of us talk. And so we break that up with jokes and with jingles, or if I'm talking for a couple of minutes, James will come in with a question or a joke. So, and each episode as well is about 15 minutes long. So it's aimed at, like I say, sort of 5 to 12-year-olds and their parents. There's definitely jokes in there that parents are going to like. It works on different levels, I like to think.
Yeah. And how long does it take you to prepare for each episode? I see so far you've done sort of 5 episodes already.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we've recorded 5 episodes, and we'll start releasing them from this weekend, once a week until Easter. And then we'll see after Easter. It might be once every 2 weeks. We'll see how we go. Sorry, what was the question? Yeah. How do we...
How long does it take you to prepare for each episode? And the research that goes into, because you need to keep it sort of dynamic, back and forth. So I can imagine a lot of preparation goes in.
Yeah, well, after those initial stages of just bouncing ideas around what topics will we do, which is really a conversation between me and James, after that, I think it's fair to say more of the research is done by me, and then I'll come back with some ideas. And then James will find out some more things as well. And I don't know. It certainly takes a good few hours preparing each episode. Recording it's pretty straightforward in that we don't have to do multiple takes normally. James is pretty good once he gets going. We're just recording mainly at home in a kind of as best we can soundproofed area, but we have used a studio at my school once or twice as well.
Yeah. So how does it work then? You come up with a topic, and then you both do some research, and then you just have the conversation. How does each episode go?
We come up with the topic way before the day we'd record the episode. So like I said, for the last year, we've been listing topics. So I'll look back through them and then start reading some out to James, and he'll go, nah, even though he suggested these but months ago. And then eventually he'll go, yeah, let's do that. And so we might just get some basic information up on the internet. And yeah, usually by then, he's 8.5 years old. He's not going to sit there and read the screen for hours. So it ends up, I'll stay longer and kind of put together some more ideas.
Yeah, maybe I can ask James this question. Now, so far, you've come up with the first 5 episodes, including the most important question in history. Was the Great Wall of China built by an awesome leader or a crazy dude? Episode 3 was, why was the Roman army so awesome? Episode 4 was, why did Henry VIII need 6 wives? And the 5th episode is Mr. Lego versus Mr. Disney. Who's the best? So far, which was the most sort of enjoyable one you've worked on? Have
The
a think.
Romans one.
Okay, why is that?
Because it's really fun to know about the Romans with their turtle formation.
Yeah, the army formation where they put their shields up, the front row would put their shields up in front of them vertically, and then behind they'll put their shields above their heads horizontally, so they look like a turtle or a tortoise.
I had no idea about that. Wow. Okay, and what else did you learn? What else can the listeners expect to learn from that episode?
Ice cream wasn't just made by all of the ingredients that we use today.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, the history of ice cream is quite different to what you might think, and certainly goes back a long way.
It was still sweet, right?
Well, they didn't add sugar back in the day, so certainly
So
not.
honey or,
They'd
coconut-
use
yeah.
nectar or honey and or ice,
Okay.
and then different flavourings from different fruits.
Oh, gosh, I can't wait to listen to that. I hope they don't have weird flavours like broccoli flavoured. Or...
Well, they did have beer flavour and
They had what flavour?
beer.
What? Beer flavour?
And what was the other two?
Your favourite pizza?
Oh yeah, pepperoni pizza.
No way.
Yep.
Well,
That's not so far back in history, that one, but those flavours are available.
okay. And so far, do you also, what sorts of feedback have you received as well? I know you've sort of done some trailers and teasers on the website. What have people been telling you so far?
Well, we went into KG5 to record for one of those trailers, and so we got a couple of Year 7 classes together, and we played them some clips, and they were brilliant. They just burst out in applause without me even, hinting that they should, and they loved it, and they were whooping and cheering, and so they seem to love it. And then I've sent it to some other friends to test out, and so it's been so we've done some test runs. So the very first episode we recorded, we did actually re-record some different parts and adding in some fun kind of jokes and sound effects and so on.
Yeah, and how do you balance between, the world is a big place. Do you only do history from a certain part of the world, or do you try and mix it up so that there's something from all over the place?
We've done pretty well.
Well, I can see Roman and China already. That's, already...
Yeah, so we've done,
Yeah.
and we've already started recording an episode set in America about slavery and the Civil War there. We're doing okay, but I think we need to look at the Southern Hemisphere more, and we're going to Australia in a few weeks, so I think we should have a look, see what we can do there.
Yeah, the Aboriginal history there as well. Okay. Well, I wish you the best of luck for the launch. I can't wait to get you back on to share more stories with our listeners as well. Have you been enjoying it so far, James?
Yeah,
What in particular do you enjoy the most making these podcast series?
telling the jokes.
He gets the best lines. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Thank you so much for your sharing. Paul, remind our listeners once again how we can find out more about this wonderful podcast series.
Well, the website's called dadandmelovehistory.com, and we're on Facebook, Facebook.com/dadandmelovehistory, and Instagram /dadandmelovehistory, and we're on Twitter as well, which is Dad and Me History. We are on Twitter.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time this week, and I look forward to having you back next time. Thank you very much to Paul and James Letters.
Great, thanks for having us.
Bye. Dad and me love a whole lot of history. We could be the greatest team that the world has ever seen. Dad and me love a whole lot of history.
That'll do, right?
Woohoo!